designer paper from Basic Gray is going to be the background for a card front, and I'd like to put a sentiment on it. If I stamp it on this white paper, it's going to be awfully stark contrast to the background, so I'm going to soften it up a little bit. First, I'd like to soften the corners, and there's a notch punch I believe that's available, but I don't have that, and I'm going to make my circle punch do double duty. Notice how the circle punch has a cross in the middle of the round part. When I put my paper in, I can line up the edges with the cross marks, and that will punch out notches. Okay. Now I'd like to soften the color by adding a little bit of Distress ink. This is Tattered Rose from Ranger. And I'm just going to run over the edges and a little bit of the middle. I don't want to completely wipe out the white, but I just want to soften this up a little bit. Okay. I'm also going to do a little bit of Vintage Photo, and a little bit of Vintage Photo goes a long way. So I just need a little bit on the very edges. Again, to soften that look and make it blend a little bit better with my background paper. Okay, I've cleaned off my excess Distress ink off my craft mat, and now I'd like to add a little bit of a faint image to the background of my piece of distressed white cardstock. I'm going to be using some Pink Pirouette, which is a very light ink from Stampin' Up, and also this wood block stamp from Stampin' Up that really matches the background paper. So I want to ink up one end of the stamp. I'm not going to need that much of it. And I'll use this to add a little bit of a flower image that'll lay in the background of my sentiment. Okay. Now I'm ready for the greeting. And it's stamped in rich raspberry ink. And I have a sentiment that looks much better on my pretty designer paper than that stark white paper would have looked with the image stamped on it. By notching the edges, by distressing, adding a little bit of a background image, and then finally putting on the sentiment. Thanks for joining me today.